Thank you, Janetta. So I know that I am not the only former Catholic at Northwoods. So on just a show of hands and in the chat on Zoom, how many ex-Catholics do we have in the room? A decent number here in the building. And I know we have a few on Zoom as well. So the next part of this question, show of hands, how many of you went through confirmation in the Catholic Church? Around the same number of hands in the sanctuary and also on Zoom. And how many of you got to pick a patron saint during your confirmation? A few hands there. I don't know if that's something every church did, or usually if it's Catholic, it's something that every church has to do. But that was my favorite part of the confirmation process, was that I got to pick, because it was the only time you got to actually pick something, right? I got to pick my confirmation name for a patron saint, and I chose Saint Cecilia, by the way, who is the patron saint of poets and musicians. So possibly also the patron saint of Northwoods, if we were to have one. But we don't have saints, do we? You know, there are many, many churches that are called like All Saints, the Church of All Saints, but those are not Unitarian churches. Unitarian churches, you will see them called All Souls, the Church of All Souls, because we believe that divinity resides in all of us equally. So I guess we don't really have saints in that sense. But I was looking at my fireplace the other day, and I took a picture. And I think it's on Zoom. I think it's on the slideshow. I took a picture of my fireplace mantle, and I realized that I had Mr. Rogers, Doctor Who's TARDIS, Carl Sagan, Prince, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dr. Fauci, and Carrie Fisher all lined up. And I thought, well, maybe we do have saints. So I thought you guys would appreciate my saints altar up there. Today we're talking about and exploring the source of our living tradition, that is the words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Now, that sounds like a saint to me. But in the course of preparing for this service, I thought to myself, what exactly makes a person prophetic? What is a prophet? Things you don't actually talk a lot about in Unitarian Universalist Seminary, funny enough, but some. So in one sense, in the larger circle sense, prophetic people are those we look up to. And in this way, we could think of it as a synonym for hero or icon or sage. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper with it for my own personal exploration. So take it in a biblical sense, right? Because I was confirmed Catholic, so I know a lot about the Bible. In a biblical sense, a prophet is one who prophesies. Super wise, right? In one of the biblical commentaries that I've read, I don't remember which, I didn't look it up because it was service auction week, but the author notes that we often think of prophets as those who can foretell the future, who can tell us what's going to happen in future times. But that's not always the case. This commentator shared that rather than a prophet being one who can see what will happen, a prophet is one who can see why it will happen. And I loved that. They can not what's going to happen, but why. Why thing is happening, why it's going to happen. And you know, if you read through various Old Testament prophets, it's usually because you have broken covenant with God or sinned or committed some great transgression, or the leader of your kingdom has, because I guess that's just the way it works. Prophets are those with far sight, then, if you will, who are able to see beyond the moment in which they live and give us wisdom that transcends that moment, that looks into the future in that sense, that tells us what is going to matter in the days to come. Prophets are the ones whose wisdom is not just for that one moment, not for their moment, not for our moment, but for all moments, or at least all the moments that we can see. Today's service is kind of like Thanksgiving dinner. Every dish on the table is your favorite, and you can't possibly eat enough of all of them because they are all your favorite. We've heard from so many sages and wise ones, because as Unitarian Universalists, we find truth in many places from many voices. And today we brought them together, and we heard from some of our prophets earlier in the service. Now, I have a video of some of my prophets right now, but I am noticing that our Thanksgiving dinner is running a bit long, so I am going to choose to skip it. And I pointedly point to my person with the clicker, and put it on YouTube. I will share it in this week's Speak in Bits, because it's still Thanksgiving dinner, even if it's leftovers, right? But I do have one more picture I want to show to. If you could just skip past the video and there's one picture after it. It looks like a Facebook post. Yeah, that's what you're missing. Here we go. It says, when people talk about traveling to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something small. But barely anyone in the present really thinks they can radically change the future by doing something small. And then someone replies, dude, which seems fair. But this to me is the most, or this to me, depending on, I have to do both because on Zoom, it's on this side of me. This to me is the most significant, powerful piece of this living tradition, source of the prophetic, the words and deeds of prophetic people. It's that when we draw spiritual sustenance from the words and deeds of those who have come before and those who live among us now, we have the opportunity to see ourselves within that tradition, to see ourselves as prophetic people who can see beyond our own time, our own moment, and touch deep truths. These are pieces of wisdom that we and the world will need, not just for our lifetimes, but into the unknown future. May we rise with humility to their call.